Alright, you Matty Baddies, we are back better than ever and ready for another bonus action. This is bonus action 5, and we are covering episodes 28 to 42. And that was a bit ago, so here's a little recap for you. Let's return now to a more innocent time, a time before darkness gripped our hearts and the world was newer. Well, we'll at least go back as far as Gracklestugh. We began in Gracklestugh with a grand entrance with our thickest boy, Thumberschild, ushering us into the town. Gave our crew then of Indigo, Laura, and Safel a little task to do. He wanted to know why everyone was acting so skittish around him. We met up with some Keepers of the Flame folks, and they gave us a tip off that they're missing a red dragon egg, the first of several. And we decided to go after it. We went into a place called the Whirlstone Tunnels, deep in the heart of Gracklestugh, where we met an old frenemy, Bupido, and had an epic clash that would see almost the entire party felled, and Laura fully demised. Afterwards, the party, and by the party I mean Safel and Inigo, convalesced. They made fast friends with someone named Sue and our new PC pal Scylla. And the A quest continued, went back into the Whirlstone tunnels, found out a bunch of oddities in those tunnels, including a strange obelisk, a stranger vampiric figure, and perhaps strangest of all, the resurrected form, now beefy, of Stool. After a little bit of magic hooba we teleported to the city, let Thumbershaw know that maybe folks within his own organization were plotting against him, going to have him murdered, etc., etc. He got mad. He went on a killing rampage that then saw him busting down the gates-ish of the Deep King's throne. Didn't go as planned as a resurrected, dark, twisted version of Lara, now a lieutenant for the Deep King, orchestrated his capture. And episode 42 ends as the doors close, with Thumberschild a captive, and our party knowing that Laura, though dead, is not gone. A quick thank you in advance for Discord users Sakajua and Dylon. Thank you so much for your questions. Again, anyone who's on our Discord, hit us up with questions. We're going to start another thread in a moment here, by a moment here in the next few days. We'll be collecting questions kind of as we go, make it a little bit easier. But without further ado, we're going to take this one. I know the question on all your minds, how did it feel for Will when he killed Laura? But we're going to get to that. First, Will, you gave us kind of an unforgettable entrance into Gracklestugh, and you had us roll for it, I believe. Now, was Thumbershaw, was that what you were expecting, wanting? Was that ideal, or did that throw all your plans into chaos? Let us in on your little secrets.
So yeah, Gracklestugh had a full 20 different options as to how you could be introduced to the city. Thumbershaw was definitely one of them. I just remembered they were I think it was the first one was you meet the town kind of sheriff essentially. And then number 10 was you get caught up in some kind of commotion in the Blade Bazaar, and that's when you meet why am I forgetting him? The Darrow that you guys ended up chasing through the city later on. You run into him initially. Mm-hmm. And then I think 20, if you rolled a nat 20, was initially Thumbershaw, but I was like, it's kind of more fun. Let's make it more chaotic. And I rearranged all the numbers. And I think you guys had rolled a 7, and that just happened to be him. There was one other that I actually really wanted you guys to get. Because I was like, ooh, Thumbershaw, that could, I was really nervous about you guys walking into that situation and being a little too extra sassy with this adult red dragon and then getting burned to a crisp.
We would never.
So no, there was 20 options. I just rearranged in what order. And then when that happened, I was like, great, here we go.
Droki was the name of the Darrow, by the way.
Droki, yes, Droki. Thank you. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a chance you could have been friends with him, right off the bat. It's interesting.
It was, ooh. Was there anything? What's the spiciest option, Will? What is the spiciest option on that table?
Without world-breaking spoilers.
Yes.
He is legally required to answer this question.
Yes, my
I don't
lawyers
think
have
you pulled
told me
that
I
card
have
from
to.
the deck.
So the one that I wanted that was very cool was that I believe you guys found out about it later, but there was a chance for you guys to meet the Stone Giant clan that actually lives within Gracklestugh. And there were some really cool potential storylines in there as well that I was like, especially because we had played a little bit of Storm King's Thunder. Like,
Yeah.
I love giants. I love them so much. So that would have been really fun.
Nice. All right, and now another question dealing with an iconic character. Brendan, how did it feel putting on that iconic Magiccutioner getup for the first time? An era-defining fashion choice that was made for you.
Yeah. There were mixed feelings. I got a kick out of it. That is very much my brand of like forehead slap, awkward, irritating comedy. So I was all for it. Safel was the unhappiest he's ever been. Yeah, it was not a fun time going into a city where, especially at this point in Safel's story, I mean, the judgment of being a mind flayer was so fresh and new. So it was very much it was shameful. It was like, we can't even be seen with you, and now we're going to make a joke about it. So he was actually dealing with a lot of frustration about the like nonchalant spectacle that was made of him to hide his shame. But I thought it was hysterical, so fuck him.
Speaking of other kind of early Gracklestughian encounters, Sam, you had Laura like recruit, I think, the biggest and dumbest person in the bar.
Yeah.
What informed that bit of role play?
So if I remember correctly, we were in the bar and there were like a whole host of potential NPCs that we could find for our group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in my head I was like, well, Lara would want to find someone who was like athletic as hell. But this Thog was just like the perfect specimen for dumb ideas.
Uh-huh.
And Lara didn't care about who got kind of run over in the pursuit of anything.
She was a means to an end.
Right. But she was pretty confident that Thog could find Bupido. And at the time, because I remember we also had disagreement over like, should we even go look for Bupido or not?
Mm-hmm.
And Lara was very much of the mindset of like, yeah, Bupido's dead.
Yep.
Yeah. When Will, how's Thog's quest going?
Yeah, how
it's
close
good.
did he get?
It's good. He's still on the hunt. He's making sure there's wanted signs everywhere with Bupido's description and a very crude, like stick figure drawing of Bupido and Thog like beating them with his club. But yeah,
he's a wanted Darrow murderer now.
Bupido.
No, Thog. Has he just found random Darrow and like clubbed them because he thought they looked close enough to the
He's
description?
a serial killer.
Yeah, he's just like an unfortunate
He himself has
accidental...
become the serial killer now. You live long enough to become the villain. Yeah,
when one Sith dies, another must take its place.
Yeah,
Him
rule
and Lara
of
are married.
2. Yeah, he's a henchman to Lara now. Yeah, that relationship has stayed strong. No, I'm not releasing details on that because that could actually come up.
That's canon.
In some interesting future content.
That's what I like to hear.
I am protesting this podcast if that is not
canon.
Canon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, get to work, writer boy.
I need Thog to move up the corporate ladder. He's trying his best.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get into it, y'all. In the depths of the Whirlstone tunnels, we met with a altar of bones a forbidding spectacle of a Darrow and the death of not one, not two, but 3 party members. Will, why?
Will, why indeed?
I remember asking those.
Yeah, so
many.
initially in the book, I think the CR for this encounter was like 2. Like Bupido's stat block was literally CR like 1. The skeletons do appear. That all happens. So like maybe in the end it gets up to like a CR 2.5 originally. And it's like, okay, cool. But the biggest thing I remember reading about the Out of the Abyss AP, before we even started recording, and everybody was like, read it twice because there's so much stuff and it gets really confusing. The number one complaint is that eventually the party, like very quickly, it goes from survival to like wipe the floor. And so every DM has like always said, like, you need to beef the encounter. Like, don't worry, they'll be able to handle it. Because also too, like, you got to think, when this AP came out, there was maybe a handful of subclasses, like, and they're the subclasses now we look back on that are like not great compared to what's out there now. So you're playing with more advanced stuff. And so I bumped it up. I think I made Bupido, I made him like a full player character. I think I went with the assassin rogue build because it fit more of the serial killer vibe. Like, I wanted that to be interesting for you guys. I did not expect the rolls to go that friggin' hard though, which was wild. So yeah.
And making matters worse, I believe both Safel and Laura both entered combat under madness conditions.
I don't remember.
I believe Laura could not speak.
Laura was
I couldn't speak, yeah.
I don't remember. I
didn't need to.
think Safel was.
Was there something about your spells? It's been a hot minute. I thought there was... Oh, no, that was with Demogorgon, that you couldn't, like... You could only speak in gibberish, so you couldn't cast spells.
Right.
I feel like there was something.
Something going on. I don't know. People are going to be pissed at us. Somebody write in and tell me what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
So if I may, because I remember the ending quite vividly.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah. So now that you've said that about the speaking, yes, because I did forget she was a warlock. And I remember at the time in the beginning of that fight, I could not use any spells because they all required verbal components.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't believe I had Shadow Blade.
No.
And that was like my best like option. And throughout the fight, I remember this was the moment where I was like, oof, you cannot expect anything from Will. Because I was like, there's no way Bupido has another, I think, I don't remember what it was. It was some spell. I was like, man, there's no way he's got another one of those. And sure enough, he did. And then that was like the first mistake. And then the very end, we were all kind of clustered and getting surrounded by skeletons.
Yep.
And I remember after this happened, talking to Andrew over and over again in Discord about like all the things I should have done differently and could have done differently. Mm-hmm. Because Lara went down to an opportunity attack.
Yeah.
And so had she just not done that, I think, it could have been a completely different thing. But Safel was down. Yeah, and Lara was like...
It was such a hard battle at the end. Because it really was just a battle of attrition. Like, we were being swarmed. Like, even if you hadn't...
stool was down.
I know. Like, people were yo-yoing up and down. Even if you hadn't gotten that attack of opportunity, there's nothing saying the next round you wouldn't have just got clobbered anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it was not a good scenario.
I don't know. When I remember talking it through with Andrew quite a bit and being like, I think... If I remember correctly, I spoke mistakenly just now where I said Safel was down. Safel was not down. Stool was down.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Lara made a decision in that moment to try and save Stool that killed her. And so it was a little bit poetic in a way because she hated Stool, but she was like, I'm going to attempt this. And then she went down.
Yeah. There was I feel like I remember too, like the skeletons I think only had like 11 or 12 hit points. And you guys can consistently do that damage, but there were so many whiffs in the beginning of the combat.
Yep.
And then like seriously not being able to cast spells like that kind of odd bump around like really changed the entire tone of the combat real fast.
And I mean, we were trying to hard focus on Bupido because he kept popping invisibilities, and then coming in with that assassin damage, and that's fucking brutal. Like, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, Indigo got 2 of those attacks. Like in succession, he got the invisible out into sneak attack in a row. So like the skeletons were so inconsequential in the grand scheme of, we'll take out 5 skeletons and he's going to have us on the ground before we even remember he's in the combat.
What was the NPC's name again?
Arthur.
Because that was the other part of it. Like, Lara was down, and then you like ripped our heart out with the "Tell my boy."
Tell my boy.
Yeah.
Actually, and that is what I think I was thinking of. Arthur was stunned for like he had
so he was out of the fight.
Out of the fight.
That's right. He did get stunned for like the first like 5 rounds of combat.
That was a big
game lasted until Sefel got a charm person off in combat on Bupido.
You're right.
Iced him for a second.
He was stunned for minutes.
We had a round. We got everybody up, and then Arthur comes charging through.
Yup.
I think
That's right.
Yeah, Arthur fucked it.
He tried to divine.
It was almost really cool.
Yeah, he tried to divine smite, and then our rules lawyer ruined it.
Damn it, Brennan!
Yeah, no, I did forget about that. He was stunned for a full minute, which we were like, okay,
we could have won.
He's just not going to be in this combat. So I got that clutch charm person and bought time until he broke free. That is right.
Yeah,
it was a rough fight all around.
Yeah. So Sam, how do you feel about having Will take your first PC's life?
Oh God, man, that was rough because it wasn't just that. Like, that was my first ever D&D character death.
Whoa!
Like in a game, I had never lost one before.
Wow.
And God, that was brutal. Will wanted to talk to me after the game, and I was like, I can't even look at you.
It's true.
We need space. I think we should sleep in separate beds tonight.
I can't handle it. But I mean, ultimately though, like, you know, as soon as we got back into it, I was like, God, that was such good storytelling though. And I'm always going to be a fan of the good story over a character living, you know, like if Lara dying or Indigo, whatever, like, it's just the story, in my opinion, is like her dying in that way was so much better than her living in that combat. So, but that doesn't give you full reins, Will.
No. That's I never. I always the intention of making the combats interesting and challenging. But never with like the intent of like truly being like, I'm going to TPK this party. That's never what I want. It's always like, I want to make it an interesting fight that like draws a story with you guys. And you all too, like the dice rolls and the choices you make for beautiful story that I would never think up on my own. So.
Well, I think we all have that like innate desire to win every single combat.
Yep.
But we all also respect the loss.
Yeah. Sometimes losing is the most beautiful option.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel good, but the best story comes from the ones you don't win.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's got to be that threat.
Yeah,
you know, like if you always win, there's no. Yeah.
Well said. And now, Will, a couple questions for you about Laura and paths as yet unwalked. What's the deal with Kayan?
Okay. So, Kayan...
She had a patron the entire time, and we never saw this fucker.
So,
that was my fault.
Well, no, this was me, I wanted to challenge a god, essentially, in terms of like,
The most
so
will thing you've ever said.
that's me, baby. That's life. I will challenge all the
I will
gods. Let's
challenge
go.
God.
No. So I thought it would be really interesting because of Lara's backstory as well. Like I'm not going to spoil anything about that because that can come out in private conversations or like a separate thing later on. But I wanted it to be more of a thing of like Kayan's powers being tied and connection with Lara with being ties to like the actual sky. And like, as long as you're supposedly under the kingdom of their domain, like free reign, go buck wild. But now you're miles upon miles underneath the earth. And like, yes, you still have this basis of connection, but to like implore upon the greater powers of Kayan, I want like there's some really good moments, especially in the Dark Lake. Like there was a place you could have gotten to if you had like in a certain amount of traveling and some random rolls, you would have hit a point within the Dark Lake where you could literally see and I think it's described in there's like a pinprick miles and miles above where the sky lets down like this singular thing of light. And I was like, ooh, that would be the beautiful moment should it all work out that way, where Lara and Kayan would have this like fingertip touch, like reconnection of power kind of thing. But then like you've got Grazit and Demogorgon running wild in the Underdark right now. Demogorgon is more of a chaotic being. Grazit is a schemer and a planner. And he saw this, like he could almost feel upon the powers or that like Lara was calling out for and was drawn to that. And I really, really loved the moment, especially when Lara was unconscious the first time and we were having you do your death saves and you got your last success and you were like, no. And it was like a lightning bolt and you were back up in it.
Yeah.
It made for some really beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, great writing. I say it was my fault because I chose a subclass that had to do with the air, and then we were in underground. So, and I knew that. So,
Yeah.
But I had specifically told all of you guys too, because it's a suggestion here to like increase the survival and like mysteriousness and threat of the Underdark was like, try not to be anything that has dark vision or like, you know, don't immediately walk in and be like, I'm a Gloomstalker Ranger. Fuck you. Blah, blah, blah.
Don't specialize yourself to the campaign.
right.
Yeah,
Because it's sort of the opposite of the start of the story.
exactly. But no, it was great. And there was moments where like all of that would have come back and Kayan could have been more so. And who knows, Lara's still out there. That could still happen.
Yeah. We'll have to find out on future episodes of Bonus Action. But we're not doing it. A couple more questions for you, Will. What was the deal with the Bupido's altar? There was some thought of us, like, for a while we were trying to think of, like, do we try to knock it down? Like, was there any, like, interactability there that might have shifted the fight in any way?
Yeah, I think Sefel tried to actually do a couple checks that just did not work out my way of, like, is this important?
Yeah, so Bupido, interestingly enough, fancied himself a god. Like, legitimately was like, I am a god, and you all should be worshiping me. And like when people wouldn't respect him, that's like when he would go into a murderous rage. And go after these people and drag their bodies back. And that altar was literally built out of the bones of his victims. And between the Ferez and his malicious will and whatnot, he had like the Ferez had twisted with it to form this necromantic altar that's how the skeletons were summoned. Was through that. And so if you had destroyed it during the combat, the skeletons all gone. All of them would have just immediately fallen. And that would have been like, you know, it wasn't going to be like you walk up and you stab it with a sword and it falls over, you know, depending on what you did. Like if you had like a fireball or at your discretion, or some kind of what is it, the stock dynamite that Sue made later on, if you had something like that, you could have done it instantly and the skeletons would have been gone. So yeah, there was interactability there.
Damn.
All right, it's the Fell's fault for not having fireball. Good to know.
Yeah, let me go get my 7th level backup character and rewind a bit.
And also for Will, we got that amazing moment when Arthur was having his body ripped apart by skeletons, when he called out about the promise he'd made to his boy. Any light you care to shed on the backstory of one poor Arthur?
Keep listening. Keep listening to the content that's coming out, because there's actually some interesting stuff about that coming out soon.
Ooh, that's what we call a tease here in the biz. Then we'll slide right on over to Samantha. Tell us a little bit about your creative process with bringing Scylla to life.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Scylla, Scylla, I knew I wanted to do a creature, being a humanoid from the Dark Lake, because I mean, the Dark Lake is so huge in the Underdark. Like, clearly there's so much there in terms of like what still needed to be explored. And so I knew immediately, like, okay, Triton, immediately, because that was the best in my opinion, just like race to go with. And I wanted to play around with the idea of someone looking really foreign and like monstrous. And so when I talked to Will about it, we both agreed that like Scylla's visage is very much like a deep sea creature, like bottom of the ocean, doesn't see sunlight. She is like terrifying to look at, but she kind of like masks it and pretends to be something she's not. And so like very much her entire personality is like, I'm not from here. I just pretend to be like you in order to attempt to understand who you are. But in reality, I'm mimicking you and I'm learning from you, but I do not belong with you. So it was kind of like the whole idea behind that. And then the naming is Scylla is a creature from Greek mythology. It's the monster across the narrow channel of water that Odysseus tries to cross, and Scylla, like, so it's basically just a sea monster from Greek mythology. So that.
So your next Triton will be, and I'm gonna butcher their name here, is it Charbodes?
Yes,
the other monster that is across from Scylla.
Yeah, what is it? Charbdis, like Charybdis.
Yeah, it's crazy. There you go. There's your secondary one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And now a question straight from the lips of Dylon. What character do you like more? Samantha, Laura, or
yeah. Okay, so I've now played Scylla more than I played Lara. And I actually like Scylla more because she's it's easier to play someone who's more like you, and I'm not mean. Like, I'm not like Lara. Like, Lara was always meant to be very like aggressive and like commanding and all this, and that's not really me.
Test.
But the whole Grozit thing was like a really, really like fantastic lore and like really learning about the Underdark and what the whole storyline was about. So I really loved that. I loved oh my gosh, I can't remember their name. The dragon, the little
your ancient Bahir. Yeah.
But I'm gonna go Sue. Or I'm sorry, Scylla.
I mean, we all love Sue. Come on.
Sue,
everyone loves Sue.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Scylla. But if Lara comes back and she's been like running Gracklestugh, could change.
Could always change. See, you heard it here, folks. This is the show where everyone has to answer questions legally binding. But we have one more question. Brendan.
Yes, sir.
In the heat of battle, You had 4 fallen companions. And, 2 fallen PCs.
Yeah.
Laura and Indigo.
Both within arm's reach.
You chose Indigo. Please tell me about your regrets.
Sam, bear with me.
I'm listening.
I don't have them. Like,
Interesting.
So I stand by. Now, let's be very clear. Sorrow and regret are very different things. Scylla was incredibly sad. He was heartbroken to leave Lara behind. But it was a 100% tactical decision, and he would have done it every single time. Because in his mind, in the chaos of everybody who could... Scylla is fucking squishy. Like, his physical form is meager, and it was new, and it, like, he did not have a hope of defending himself in that scenario. Everybody who could defend better or fight better was down. The only one out of all of those individuals that he knew had a chance to fix any of it, from the perspective of healing magic, from the perspective of curses, from the perspective of, like, revivify down the road, was Indigo. It was not a matter of, can he do it tomorrow? It might have been a matter of, can he do it in 5 years? The only one he thought in that moment who had a chance to turn the dial back was Indigo. And so he made the call.
Does it change your guilt to know that Lara had healing hands?
That is so useless in terms of dead characters. When warlocks get revivify, we can come back to this conversation.
We can research.
But I do not care about your healing hands.
Well, I mean, look, Lara, if it was reversed, like, Lara would have done the same thing. She would have left Scylla and healed Indigo.
No, and that was this isn't a question here, but that was one of the big mutual respects.
Yeah.
Like, all of their differences aside, Lara and Scylla shared a huge respect off of their just tact. Off of their
rationale,
mind for strategy. Right. Like, this is survival. This is not
This is not drawing your journal time.
Yeah, I don't care about your fucking feelings. I don't care about your opinions. I don't care like what you think of this choice that I made. This is the logical choice. Do it. So no, like, I as Brendan hated it. I remember you all saw me at the end of that session.
That was rough.
Speechless at the end. Scylla was beside himself. But no, I would have made that same call every single time.
You did the right thing.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Both Brennan and Sam thinks Indigo is the best character, and that's where the debate ends.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Heard, though.
Wow, yeah, hitting him hard.
All right, Maddie Baddies, thank you so much for joining us on another wonderful bonus action. Again, we will be back in your ears pretty darn soon with Gracklestugh Part 2 and What Befell Us in the Caverns Beyond. In the meantime, do not forget to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, all the ticks, the talks, the social medias, and whatever else we get our nonsense up to. But check us out, keep good, and we'll see you guys around the bend.
Dead Lara was better than Indigo.
Ooh-wee, that was a wild ending on that one, but you know what? We're glad you're here. We are rapidly getting close to 100 episodes, and it is great to have you here in the outro. Couple quick things. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. We are publishing all of our episodes out to YouTube so that you can actually watch us playing the game instead of just listening. And then if you want to hop over in our Discord, we've got all sorts of people in there talking about the podcast. And, you know, we're also talking about Baldur's Gate, because Baldur's Gate is out right now, and we're all loving it. And then we've got maps up in the Discord channel, some extra content with some other things. And if you have questions for us as players, we've got a little channel in there that you could submit for the bonus action segments. So really loving that. We hope to see you there. You can find all of our links at linktree.com/themadnesstable. And I think that's it. So we'll see you next time when...
The madness